Hi guys, welcome to my online class lecture. In today's video, we are looking at the chess piece known as the bishop. The chess bishop looks like this. It's a piece on the chessboard. So, over a while on this page, we have been treating the chess pieces from scratch. I've talked about the pawns, I talked about the rook, I talked about the king. Now we are here dealing with the bishop. So, what does a bishop look like on the D board? A bishop looks like this. So, this is a bishop. This is the exact figure you will see on the chessboard. Whereas this is the iconic representation you will see that represent the bishop on the D board. The chess bishop moves and captures along the diagonals. Diagonals are a set of squares that looks like this. They are arranged such that they are slant. See, if you follow the direction of this stick, you will notice that all the squares it touches are light squares. So these are diagonals. We have a diagonal through from A1, B2, C3, D4, E5, F6, G7, and straight to H8. These are diagonals. So if you notice what I've just done, I've just highlighted diagonals of two different colors. We have the diagonals that contains only light squares, and we have diagonals that contains only dark squares. So on this D board, the colors are color white and color green. However, on other boards, we can have different color that indicates the dark squares. For a bishop that starts off on a light square, we call it a light squared bishop. So for a bishop that starts on a dark square, we call the bishop dark squared bishop. So the bishop moves and captures along the diagonals. So if you notice, this is a dark square bishop. It travels only along the dark squares on the board and in turns. This for the light squares. A bishop is worth 3 points, meaning the value of a bishop is equal to 3 pawns put together. There are light squared bishop and dark squared bishop on the board, as you can see. So let's go to the do's and don'ts of bishops on the board. A bishop travels along the diagonal. That's true. A bishop captures along the diagonal. So I'm going to explain capture by introducing another piece on the board, such as a rook, since you know how the rook moves. This is a rook standing here on H3. So H3 is a light square. So since H3 is a light square, it's only the bishop that travels along the light square that has the ability to capture this rook at the moment if it is white to play. So with white to play, you have to connect it there and see what to do. Since this can take this now, you can simply take the black rook on H3 because we have a bishop on a light square on E6 that can travel along that diagonal to take the rook. A rook standing here, for example, can be a target if we are to play the bishop somewhere here. Yes, however, at the moment, the rook attacks the dark square bishop, so we have to take the bishop away to a safe square. So that's how we move the bishop. I'm showing you the bishop's movement and how it can escape threat and attack. A bishop maintains a certain color on the chessboard. So whenever you are playing and by mistake you see your piece or your opponent's piece in the same color this way, you have to call the arbiter or raise an alarm saying the bishops are not placed correctly. A bishop, two bishops, for instance, should not be on the same color on the board except there was a promotion that introduced a second bishop on that same color. However, on starting, bishop stays on separate colors, one for the light square and one for the dark square. So it indicates as this. A bishop is capable of moving to and fro along its diagonal. I explained that it can go forward on the first turn and on the next turn it can actually go back. So for example, after this bishop moves here to g4, attacking the rook, if there was an attack by the rook moving away from this danger square from the bishop, maybe creating a counter attack by moving to d4, the bishop can actually move back, so to where it came from. It's possible. A bishop is a long range piece, so you have to be aware of the bishops from the enemy side, and you have to be very careful how using your own bishop too from your own side. Since the bishop is a long range piece, you have to be careful when placing your material. For instance, if you are to place this pawn travels all the way, let's take an example. This pawn travels all the way down from h7 up to h2. For you to stop this pawn from becoming a queen in the next move, promotion, you have to place your long range piece here on b7 so you can have influence over the diagonal to stop the pawn. That is connected to the knowledge of long range piece. What the bishop does not do, the bishop does not jump over piece. If its own colored piece is in front of it, for instance, if you have a rook standing in front of the bishop at the moment, you see, once this pawn promotes, it can't jump over. So you have to know this and create a space for your bishop to have access through the diagonal down to h1. So since the bishop does not jump, you have to know this information so you won't fall victim of leaving your rook here, hoping the bishop will jump over after promotion. So you know what to do next. A bishop cannot capture its own colored piece. The same example, it can't. It can't. So it's its own colored piece. If you are to make your move, you want to make space for the bishop to have access through this diagonal, you have to move your piece so it can see through, since it's a long range piece. A bishop cannot move vertically or horizontally. Yes, most cases I hear of examples or pupils asking questions saying, can the bishop capture like this? You have a bishop here, you have a knight closer to it. This is a dark squared bishop. Since it is a dark squared bishop, it only travels on the dark squares. At the moment, the bishop cannot move horizontally to the left to capture this particular knight standing one square closer to it at the moment. So the bishop cannot do that. It doesn't have the ability to do that. It can't. So bishop cannot. Same thing with bishop cannot capture vertically or horizontally. So I believe you've learned from the bishop tutorial today. Expect more of this on this page. Thank you for watching. Till next time.